My daughter ripped up my birthday card and shouted, "You don't deserve my love." I stared at her in silence and whispered, "One day you'll want my love back." When she went to her room later, she found a box on her bed that held my name's Claire. I'm 53 years old. I've lived in Plains, Illinois for most of my life. My daughter Dani is 25. I raised her alone since she was 8. After her father walked out, he left us for a woman he met at a corporate retreat in Tampa. I came home one day and found half his clothes gone and a typed letter on the kitchen table. No warning, no conversation, just "I'm sorry Claire, I have to live my truth." Dani cried for a week straight. She kept asking if Daddy was coming home. I lied and said he might, even though I knew he was already living with the other woman. He barely sent child support. When he did, it came with guilt-tripping emails about how I must be using Dani against him. So I stepped up. I worked mornings at a diner and cleaned off at night. I miss sleep. I miss birthdays with friends. I never took a vacation. I bought Dani clothes from the second-hand store and made them look new. She never knew. I never let her know how hard it really was. She was a smart kid, honor roll, orchestra, science fairs. I was proud of her, and when she got accepted into Northwestern, I cried happy tears. She was the first person in our family to go to a big-name school. I told her, "I'll figure out the money, don't worry about it." And I did. I took out loans I had no business signing at my age. I cashed out my small retirement. I even sold the classic Mustang my father left me in his will. I just wanted her to have chances I never had. But once she got to college, something changed. At first it was little things. She'd text back days late. Her tone was cold. She started calling me Claire instead of Mom in front of friends. I laughed it off. I told myself she was just becoming independent. Then she met him, Colin, clean-cut, moneyed, and smug in a way only rich kids can be. He drove a new Audi and wore sweaters over his shoulders. The first time I met him, he shook my hand like he was interviewing me. When I tried to tell Dani in private that something about him didn't sit right, she snapped, "You're just bitter because you never had a real man." That shut me up for a while. The visits home got shorter, then they stopped. She started ignoring holidays unless I begged. When she did come by, it was like she was enduring me. She picked at her food, stayed on her phone, and made comments like, "This place hasn't changed at all," like it was a bad thing. I kept giving birthdays, Christmas, care packages, letters. I never stopped trying. This year on my birthday, I made her favorite cake, the one we used to make together. I lit a candle and waited. 6 p.m. nothing. 7 p.m. still nothing. I told myself maybe she was working late. At 7:42 p.m. I heard her car in the driveway. I opened the door and smiled. She looked tired, or maybe just annoyed. She handed me a card, cheap, plain, from the corner store. Inside was just her name, no message, no love, Dani, nothing. I looked at her and said, "You didn't have to come if it felt like a chore." She rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, here we go, the guilt." "I'm just being honest," I said. She stood up. "You always do this, make me feel like a bad daughter for not worshipping you. Maybe I don't feel like pretending you were perfect. You don't deserve my love." Then she grabbed the card back, ripped it in two, and dropped it at my feet. I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I just looked at her. She held her glare like she was daring me to break. I said quietly, "One day you'll want my love back." She turned and stormed upstairs, slammed the door to her old room. I sat there staring at the torn pieces on the floor. After a while I got up, went to the hall closet, and pulled out a cardboard box I'd been holding on to for 25 years. Inside was every drawing she ever made me, her first letter to Santa, a lock of her hair from her first haircut, the macaroni necklace she made in kindergarten, and every single Mother's Day card she ever gave me. I added the torn birthday card on top. Then I took an envelope and wrote a letter. It said, "If you ever wonder who loved you without conditions, who gave until there was nothing left to give, it was me. Even when you forgot." I sealed it, placed the envelope on top of the box, and carried it upstairs. I set the box on her bed and went back downstairs. She didn't come out for dinner, didn't speak, left the next morning without saying goodbye. 3 weeks passed. Then I got a call, not from Dani but from Colin, and that's when everything began to unravel. 3 weeks after that birthday night, my phone rang on a Tuesday afternoon. I was on break at the diner, standing out back by the dumpster smoking a cigarette. I told myself I'd quit months ago. The number wasn't saved, but I recognized the area code, Chicago. I answered, "Hello, Claire." The voice was low, unsure. "This is Colin." I almost hung up. Instead I just said, "What do you want?" There was a pause. Then, "I think you should know what's going on. Dani's not okay." I leaned against the brick wall. "What happened?" "She lost her job 3 weeks ago, fired for cause some HR issue involving her boss." "It's been bad." "She hasn't told you because, well, she doesn't want to deal with you." I stayed silent. Colin kept going. "She's drinking a lot, sleeping all day, lashing out. She screams at me over nothing. I found her crying in the bathroom last night, holding that letter you left in the box." So she had read it. "She won't admit it," he said, "but your letter broke something open in her. I think she knows she went too far, but she's not ready to say it." I took a long drag. "So why are you calling me?" "She needs help, Claire, real help, and she sure as hell won't accept it from me." I told him flat out, "That girl told me to my face I didn't deserve her love." I've given more to her than I've ever given anyone in my life. I've got nothing left to bleed for someone who spits in my face. He said nothing for a second. Then she's your daughter? I replied, yeah, and I was her mother. I hung up. Over the next few days I thought about it more than I wanted to. I saw her baby face in my dreams, heard her tiny voice calling mama from behind the bathroom door while I showered. Then I remembered her face the night she tore my card cold, unrecognizable. Then came the letter, a white envelope in my mailbox, no return address. I opened it in the kitchen. It was from Danny, handwritten. Her cursive had changed, sharper, more rigid. I found the box. I didn't want to open it. I did anyway. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I hoped it would be empty, but it wasn't. It was full of everything I tried to forget, everything that proves you were always there even when I told myself you weren't. I don't know how to say sorry. I don't know how to fix us. I'm not ready, but I'm not okay. I stared at the letter for a long time. I didn't write back. Instead, I started packing up her old room slowly, box by box. I wrapped up her trophies, her books, her childhood dolls. I didn't donate them. I didn't throw them away. I just put them all in storage in the garage. 3 days later, Colin showed up at the diner. He sat at the counter, waited until I poured his coffee, then said, she's getting worse. I looked him dead in the eyes. That's not my problem anymore. She keeps saying she wishes you'd never had her. I swallowed hard. He leaned in closer. If you don't help her, she's going to fall apart completely, and I'm not sticking around forever either. I took the coffee pot, turned my back, and walked away. But the thing about distance, it doesn't make the pain fade, it sharpens it. That night I sat alone at my kitchen table rereading her letter, and I started to wonder, was this just the beginning of her unraveling, or was it mine too? Because no matter how much I told myself I was done, a part of me still needed her to feel the full weight of what she'd done, not just to me but to herself. A week after Colin came to the diner, I got a certified letter in the mail, legal envelope. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. Inside was a notice Danny had filed for emergency guardianship of me, claimed I was suffering from mental decline and hoarding behavior, that I was not competent to manage financial or medical decisions. I read the words 3 times before I could believe them. The same girl who said I didn't deserve her love was now trying to take control of my life. At first I thought maybe it was some mistake. I called the Cook County Clerk's office to confirm it wasn't a mistake. The hearing date was already set 3 weeks from now. I sat at the kitchen table for hours, the letter in one hand, her childhood photo in the other, the one where she's 5 covered in chocolate frosting, laughing in a princess dress. How did we get here? I called a lawyer, an old friend of mine from church, Anita. She came over that night, read the letter, and said, Claire, this is personal. This isn't about guardianship. This is payback for what I don't know, but she's trying to hurt you legally and she's being coached. My mind went straight to Colin. When Anita did some digging, it all made sense. Colin's father was a corporate lawyer, high-end, quiet, ruthless. Danny had apparently consulted with him before filing, so this was orchestrated. It wasn't just a panicked move from a broken daughter, it was a calculated legal ambush. My first thought was why, then I remembered something. An envelope I had mailed to Danny a year earlier. Inside was a signed copy of a notarized document naming her as my medical proxy and power of attorney. Back when she was still in school, before the rift got ugly, she must have realized that gave her leverage. The betrayal cuts so deep I stopped eating for 2 days. I missed work. I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house like a ghost. I kept hearing her words, you don't deserve my love, now twisted into you don't deserve your own life. Anita was furious. We'll fight this, but Claire, if the court buys her story, they can start freezing accounts, limiting access to property. You need to protect yourself. I went into action. I moved money, secured my safe deposit box, hired a forensic accountant to look into anything Danny might have accessed financially. I got letters from my doctor, my employer, even neighbors, all confirming I was stable, competent, and very much in control of my life. But something inside me broke that week, because this wasn't just about control, it was about power. I realized Danny didn't just want to push me away, she wanted to erase me from the picture. Maybe it was guilt, maybe she wanted to shift the narrative, maybe Colin or his family convinced her that burying the past meant cutting me out completely. Whatever the reason, I knew this, she hadn't just gone too far, she had declared war, and for the first time in my life I wasn't going to protect her from the consequences. The courtroom was small, tucked inside a downtown annex near the Des Plaines Government Center. The hearing was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I wore a navy blue blazer I hadn't touched since my mother's funeral. Danny came in with Colin by her side. She wore a beige trench coat and carried a leather binder like she was prepping for a job interview. She didn't look at me. Her lawyer, a slick man with polished shoes and an empty smile, stood up first. He spoke about my erratic behavior, how I'd withdrawn socially and neglected to maintain a safe environment. He brought up the box I left on her bed, twisting it into a narrative of emotional manipulation. He said I was mentally fragile and exhibiting signs of early cognitive decline. Then Danny spoke. She said I'd become unreachable, obsessed with the past and emotionally unstable. Her voice trembled not from nerves but because she wanted it to. She even cried a little, claimed she was scared for my well-being. I sat still the whole time, didn't flinch, didn't blink. Then it was my turn. Anita stood and handed the judge a thick folder, letters from my doctor, my employer, my church pastor and my neighbors, reports from the forensic accountant showing no unusual financial activity, photos of my home clean, orderly, the same way it's been for decades. Then I stood. I'm not perfect, I said. I've been through a lot, but I am not mentally unfit. I have worked since I was 16. I paid for my daughter's education by cleaning bathrooms and serving eggs to people who barely looked me in the eye, and now she's standing here trying to paint me as incompetent because she wants control, not care. Control? The judge asked a few questions. I answered calmly, clearly. Then Anita pulled out one final piece of paper, a letter Di had written me, dated just weeks before the filing, the one where she admitted she wasn't okay, that she missed me, that she wasn't ready to repair things. Anita looked right at the judge. Does that sound like a woman scared for her mother's safety, or someone looking to rewrite the past because it's easier than facing what she did? The judge denied the guardianship petition. As soon as the gavel dropped, Danny stood up fast and walked out. Colin followed. She didn't look back. That should have been enough, but it wasn't, because while I'd won the legal battle, I knew she'd still carry the story in her head. She's the victim, I'm the villain, and I couldn't live with that, so I wrote her one final letter. I mailed it. No copies, no digital trail, just ink and paper. Danny, you went to court to take away my rights, to make me legally invisible. I don't care how much pain or confusion you're carrying. That crossed a line. I loved you more than I loved anyone, including myself. I gave everything. Now I'm giving you one more thing, freedom. I've changed my will. You're no longer the executive, you're no longer the beneficiary. The money you didn't know I had, it's going elsewhere now. Scholarships for single mothers, donations to women's shelters. If you want to rebuild someday, you'll have to do it from scratch, not because I don't love you, but because real love has limits, and you found mine. I never heard back. 3 months later, Colin broke up with her. A mutual friend told me he moved to Austin and got engaged to someone else. Danny moved back in with her father in Florida. She's jobless, alone, and from what I hear, blaming everyone but herself. As for me, I'm okay. I started taking walks again, volunteering at the local shelter. I laugh more, I sleep better. I don't miss the version of her that stood in that courtroom. I miss the girl in the frosting-covered princess dress, but she's long gone, and I'm finally at peace with